Mark from the Geek Church, and this is Sanan Kolva.
Hello.
And she is a fantasy author, and today we're going to be discussing some of our very favorite fantasy-related stuff. So we're going to go through books and movies and TV shows, and I can't really think of a lot of TV shows off the top of my head, but I'm sure, hey, I'm sure you know
Other
some.
than like Game of Thrones,
No,
that's the first one that comes to mind.
Are we gonna, yeah, I know. That's like, that's a white whale. Okay, we're going to really discuss that. I thought we should start with books because, I mean, I think that there's a lot of great fantasy book series that have been turned into movies, and some of them really need to be, or some, like, shouldn't be, and some, like, are probably going to be because they can.
Mm-hmm.
So, I got my computer in front of me in case I can't think of any, but...
Excellent.
Let's just throw some off the top of our head. Okay, let's just start with the big one, Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You read the book?
I've read the books.
Okay, you've read the books? Did you read are you one of those type of person that's read, like, all the books, like, nobody's ever heard of? Like, the Silmarillion?
I have not read the Silmarillion. I have not read any of...
The Lost Tales?
No, haven't read those.
And every once in a while, I swear, the Tolkien family just says, like, hey, we found another book. And I'm going like, where'd you find that thing? Come on, you wrote that. And you're trying to say like, J.R.R. wrote it. And it's like, yeah, he didn't write that, man.
Well, I don't know. Apparently he did make extensive notes. So I can see
a lot of great stuff.
taking like his notes and putting them into some degree of,
Oh, yeah,
novelization form and be like, I mean, technically he wrote it and we just kind of did a lot of editing to it.
That's probably true. Didn't he want like the Lord of the Rings to be like one book, and it was his editor who said like, no, you need to split this up to 3, otherwise he would have had like a Bible in his hand.
Right.
Out loud.
If I remember correctly, part of the reason that it got split into 3 books was because of the time period, which was World War II.
Oh yeah.
And we just have material shortages and capabilities of what can be printed, what can we actually do.
All right, and didn't he write the books during World War II? Like he was like...
Probably, yeah. I don't know the
exact... Okay, that sounds like something that would happen. Okay, so...
in that time frame.
How old were you when you first read the books?
Oh, gosh.
I know,
I'm going to say early teens.
Okay, I remember reading them in 6th grade. Mm-hmm. My aunt had them, and she had like a very old version of them, and I'm sure that is probably worth a lot of money if she still has them. She probably just chucked them with whatever. A lot of people did that. I mean, because those old books. Plus, they probably didn't keep in good shape.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, I will say, I started all 3 of the books at one point or another before I ever managed to actually read them. Mm-hmm. So, like, I started Lord of the Fellowship of the Rings and kind of got a little ways into it and was like, yeah. So then I picked up The Two Towers and started reading it. Mm-hmm. And I did the same thing with Return of the King before I ever actually sat down and completely read The Fellowship of the Rings and then actually read all 3 of them.
You know what's funny with me? I think when I read them, I really got into Fellowship of the Ring because I thought... And then the problem is when Tolkien decided, and this isn't in the movies, but essentially in The Two Towers, it splits off. Mm-hmm. So there's like book 3 that focuses on Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli and Pippin and Merry. And then the rest goes to Frodo and Sam. And I was more interested in the Frodo and Sam stuff. Mm-hmm. So I got super bored. I remember reading Two Towers. I was like, oh, when are you going to go back to Frodo and Sam? And then that got really interesting with just because I feel like the simplicity of that story was better. Then they were just like, and then they met with this army, and then it was like, then they get in the Helm's Deep, and even the Helm's Deep is really, I mean, because Tolkien has a way of epic prose that we don't write now these days. It's very plot driven, very story driven. He doesn't really care about developing characters or character arcs. And that's very apparent. I feel like it is more the Peter Jackson and other versions who have done that. And we in our imagination kind of fill in those gaps that Tolkien didn't really do. When I got to Return to the King, I think I just skipped chapter
like the 5. The first half of the book?
Yeah, because it was like, okay, it's all just armies, and armies. And it's like, I can't keep track of all these characters you're just throwing at me here. And... of course, I had the advantage of when I read Lord of the Rings, I knew the Ralph Bakshi version and I knew the Rankin Bass version of The Hobbit and Return of the King. I don't really know the story of that, and we'll kind of get to that when we talk about fantasy movies. But yeah, so okay. So
Now, I did reread them all in college also.
Oh, yeah.
Because I found in our college library we had a really nice, like, all of them in one, bound in one
Nice.
epic volume that also had Tolkien's paintings in it.
Oh, shoot,
which
yeah.
is really cool.
that is
He
cool.
he did his own artwork for these things.
Oh, dang, that is very, very cool. Okay, man. Okay. All right. Oh, speaking of books, we should probably talk about. This is your latest book here,
Yes,
Runelight?
Runefrost.
Runefrost. Yeah. Okay, so definitely read that if you don't get that, and yeah, if that's the only, if this is the only takeaway you should get from that is that. Okay, Sanan, why don't you throw out one? What's a book series, fantasy books that you liked?
Terry Brooks' The Shannara series.
I've read 2 of those books. Let's see, how many books are there total in that? Do you know?
I have no idea
Me
at
neither.
this point because he keeps writing them.
Oh, he's still alive?
Yes, he is. I've met him twice actually.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I read Elfstones. Here's the thing: I didn't know that Elfstones was a sequel to Sword of Shannara, and I found that out like later. And so I was reading Elfstones, and it's like, oh, they keep talking about this, and it's like, but I liked Elfstones a lot better than Sword. But there are a lot of good characters in that one. It's very obviously Tolkien inspired, but it is doing its own thing.
Yeah.
Which is something that I like about it. There's it's very interesting developments between the elves and how they work, and it's just very imaginative, and it's something that have they tried to adapt these?
Actually, there is a TV show. There was a TV show.
Really?
Yes. That is actually based on the Elfstones of Shannara.
So they did
And
what
it-
I did. They got the second
And
book first.
just for the interest of, it was produced by MTV.
Yeah, I feel like, wow, that just says it all, doesn't it?
I didn't watch it when it was on MTV, but I found it at probably Walmart, like the actual box set of
Yeah,
it.
sure.
So I have it.
Oh, okay. You just haven't watched it yet?
I've watched like the first half of it. I've watched some of it. I haven't finished it yet.
Is it pretty accurate to the book?
To what I remember of the book.
Okay.
It's been a while since I read the book.
Yeah, no kidding. I haven't read those, and I mean, isn't there like the Druid of the Shannara, and then there's like the
So
Sky of the Shannara?
So Science of Shannara, Druid of Shannara, Elf Queen, and then there's a 4th book of that one because that is there's like a 4-book chunk that is one kind of mini series in there.
Oh my gosh! I mean, there's practically the
Talismans
Shannara of the Shannara here.
of Shannara, I believe.
Ah,
it is.
jeez, this is getting kind of up there. Okay, so all right.
So I remember I read those probably around high school time and definitely really enjoyed those. I re-listened to them recently on audiobook a few years back, and it was really interesting because once I re-listened to them, kind of reread them, I realized how much influence they have actually had on my own writing.
I think that's good that has that, because as I recall, the world of Shannara is pretty. I mean, it feels very fleshed out. You feel like
It
you
is.
could live there, and
it's
like.
It was sometime when the first time that I read those 4 books that I realized that the Shannara series, the Shannara world, is a post-apocalyptic Earth.
Huh?
It is. It's Earth.
No, that can't be
Yep,
right.
it is.
No.
Yep.
What? Oh, for crying out loud. Okay. That's going to get to another book series that I don't want to talk about yet. So let's talk about. Okay, this is my turn.
Yep.
Chronicles of Narnia. You ever read it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Did you like it? Okay. Honestly, I think I'm told that Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were contemporaries. They knew each other. And apparently, and I think it's funny, I actually heard that at some point in time, Lewis was the atheist. It was Tolkien who actually had to kind of say, because there are very spiritual elements in Lord of the Rings for sure. And I feel like...
And especially in Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, and Chronicles of Narnia, though, it is a bit too, it's a bit too on the nose.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hide what it is.
It's just enough on the nose to be Lion Witch of the Wardrobe is clearly the story of Christ. But when you get to the later things, there's really nothing there as far as like you can relate with anything biblical and stuff like that. I mean, you could talk with, you could talk about the last battle and how that's supposed to be like the book of Revelations and stuff. But I actually did like how Narnia was its kind of own little world and how it was set up and how the animals talked. And it was just a beautiful place. It was a place you would want to visit. If you ever, And hey, like a lot of fantasy stories, which we're going to discuss, it does interact with the modern day world, or at least the modern day world back then. The world of World War II, I think, because as I recall, the kids were essentially there because of the London bombings.
Yeah.
And
And interestingly, that's something I didn't mentally make that connection until seeing the movie version of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That's why they're being sent off to the countryside to some person these kids have never met before. They don't even know who this old guy is.
I'm sure that happened a lot, actually, and I don't even think that professor is. And then he shows up and actually, I think they believe that this is probably a fantasy series where they put the prequel in it in a very odd spot. The Magician's Nephew is like the 6th book in the series, but it takes place before the first one. So oftentimes I'll see gift sets and they put the Magician's Nephew first, and I'm going like, hey, that ain't right. And then they renumber the series after that. It's like, boy, you're like totally off, aren't you? And Last Battle always comes last, though, so that's good. But yeah, I've read this entire series twice, and the best part about the books is they're a very quick read. Yeah. Like you can sit and you can spend an evening, and you feel like, and you can read them at probably the amount of time they can make the movie out of them, and or at least the time you would spend watching the movie. So we'll talk about its adaptation later. Okay, Sanan, it's your turn. What book series?
Book series. Okay. Oz.
Now that I've never read any single book in the Wizard of Oz. Now I'm told that these book series are very different than, of course, the movie. I'm sure the original. Now, honestly, Oz is one of those things where it's like I feel like we've got the definitive version down, and we're going to stick with that. I've never seen anybody's try. Actually, there has been people that have tried this. They keep trying to reinvent this thing, and I feel like everybody keeps relating it to the Judy Garland and 1939 movie, and it's unavoidable. It really is. Yeah. It just like you can't really separate yourself from it because of how our culture kind of raised us with this movie, how it would come on CBS all the time. So I never read the book of this, and how many books are in the series? There's like.
I have no idea.
There's so many of them. And it feels like one of those things where it's, and somebody has, and we're going to talk about this when we get to movies, on how Return of the Oz, remember that? And Wicked is obviously coming out here pretty soon, and the musical is, of course, probably somewhat only related. And I'm told that the illustrations in these things were very unusual, that Oz was not meant to be this bright and colorful technical world. It was a world with its dark side.
Definitely did.
And there were things that I think were, that really just kind of went, what? Where you kind of went like, that's in this? And you kind of go like, and so yeah, you'd call that fantasy, but the Oz was like, boy. So, what's the Reddit? Franco Baum? Is that what you say? Okay. Baum. Drugs, maybe? Was that?
I mean, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, I think there might be some there. Yeah, because I don't know, because there's some stuff there that's like. But he did invent. He kind of helped. I actually looked this up once. The concept, the character of TikTok, an artificial man, was kind of a robot, and this was before robot stories were very common. So he kind of created this aspect of it, and the aspect of the Scarecrow and the Tin Man were actually very intriguing ideas that he was playing around with first. The idea of I don't know, some like a golem or a creature that has been created by us and then brought to life. I think that's kind of
that's a very old concept actually. There's like medieval myths about that.
Oh heck yeah! And so Oz was, I think, really interesting though as far as how they did that. I took a course in college that this one guy tried to tell me that it was supposed to be Oz's The Wizard of Oz was a metaphor for the gold standard and how and it's a weird
Interesting.
theory about how how this is Wizard of Oz as in OZ as in like how we were transferring from the silver standard to essentially our economy that we use now. And
Interesting.
I know,
That's an
yeah.
interesting concept.
I know, and I'm kind of going like, well, I like the way that is looked at, but I'm going like, can I have fun with this world? It's fun. It's like there's flying monkeys for crying out loud. Is that even in the book?
Yes.
Okay, so the flying
Monkeys are in the book.
Is there anything that's in the book that's because I know that there's silver. She has the silver slippers in the book, and they made them ruby because color.
Mm-hmm.
Does a basic movie, does it 1939 follow the structure plot wise? I mean, with a few.
It's been a long time since I read the original Wizard of Oz, but as I recall, kind of the base structure, yes.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a lot more in the book, and a lot less singing.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, the whole thing is like a dang musical and stuff like that, which I guess was pretty popular at the time. I mean, so honestly, it's really hard to talk about the Wizard of the Oz series without talking about the movie, isn't it?
It is.
You can't really do. I mean, I'd like to. Like, if I read all however many books, I didn't even know how many books in this. I mean, how do I know there's 7 Chronicles of Narnia books and at least 3 Lord of the Rings books? If you count The Hobbit, Silmarillion, and all those other stuff that they can do with that. Okay, so we got that. All right. Okay, whose turn is it for?
It's your turn.
Oh, it's mine? Okay. All right, might as well get this out of the way. Harry Potter, let's talk about it. The book series.
I've read most of them.
Okay, I've read all of them.
Okay.
So,
I stopped after Order of the Phoenix. I haven't read the last 2.
okay. Did you watch the movies to sort of just get the plot, or did you just not care after a while?
I watched the first half, the Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
And I wasn't quite interested enough to watch Part 2.
Okay. Honestly, we tried to define fantasy as kind of like, usually it has that kind of medievalish type of setting. And of course, and then what would we call this? Modern fantasy?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a lot of modern fantasy out there these days. In fact, you could even call Chronicles of Narnia that. Because hey, Wizard of Oz really takes place in the present. It's not deliberately set.
I mean, if we really want to get nitpicky onto subgenres, I would call Chronicles of Narnia a portal fantasy.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. That's really popular in anime, I'm told. So, okay, so
Harry Potter.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the way that J.K. Rowling has been put through kind of the ringer, and quite justly, I'm going to say that because honestly, it's kind of an author really shooting themselves in the foot and causing all the many fans to question everything about their work. And yeah, I have to admit, there was a time when Harry Potter was praised to high heaven, and now it's just being looked at with a microscope and finding all the flaws in it, which are, yes, very numerous.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, several of the flaws in Harry Potter are inherent in this fantasy genres. That is, creating races that are essentially subservient to humans, which is one thing that is talked about, and Rowling tried to address in, I think, the 4th book, with a subplot that isn't in its movie version at all, where I think Hermione is trying to make the house elves equal. She's trying to kind of
independence.
Yeah, I know, and I get it. When you're a kid, you see an issue like that, and you want to help out, and I think it's good, but it's played for laughs in the plot, and it really shouldn't be. But and I gotta admit, I'm not really certain why this series took the world by storm the way it did. And there are people that are, you get constant comparisons to Star Wars, but their lightsabers are made of wood. Yeah, I know, there's a lot you could say. I want to hear your, what's your take? Obviously, you didn't finish it.
I didn't finish it.
What's the matter?
I kind of wish she'd stopped at book 4, because I felt like that was it felt like a good kind of arc. That was where the story was still fun.
Yeah.
I was still enjoying it, and kind of at the end of book 4 is where we really started to take a dark turn.
Oh yes, it gets
A very dark turn.
I mean,
And then we kind of just stayed there.
yeah, and then that's,
And the earlier books were a lot more fun.
they were lighthearted.
They were
and
lighthearted,
fun.
and yes, we still had, we still had danger. We still had things going on. We still had a basilisk running around and petrifying people, which is horrifying if you think about it.
Yeah, but it didn't kill anybody. It just was stunning them. It's okay. We'll revive them. But it's like, yeah, before it's like, you're dead.
But yeah, we kill somebody at the end of the fourth book.
And I know, and it's kind of like, and it does sit, and honestly, I kind of like the sense of maturity that has. That I think if this author planned this way, that it's like, I want to start out something that seems like very whimsical and childish and then take it into more mature, dark territory. If that person planned it, then I'm going to give him credit, okay? I know J.K. Rowling gets a lot of beef because of her opinions on certain things, but as a writer, I think she tackled that pretty well as far as if you planned it that way. And sometimes you don't really plan it that way. You start out your story and going one direction. I'm sure you've done that with these books. You might have started off the story one direction, and by the time you get to the end, it's like, that's the fun of it, isn't it?
I didn't know it was going to go that way, but there we are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think with Harry Potter, I think part of what really turned me off on the fifth book, The Order of the Phoenix, is that I just felt like Harry made some really stupid choices that it didn't feel quite in character for him to be that stupid.
Oh yes. Also, he's angry in that fifth
And he's
book.
very
I call it Angry Potter.
Yes.
I mean,
And it was very jarring.
He was pissed off the entire book. And it made for like really uninteresting reading. I didn't even want to see the movie of it because I knew they were going to tone that down. They did. They didn't make him like all, because he gets like, why do they always have to be like this? And it's like,
And again, and him being that angry the whole time led to him being dumb.
I mean, I
Like,
get
he was
it. You do stuff like that.
And I understand that, like, plot-wise, she needed it to go that way, but it's just like, it just left me really annoyed at the characters.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man. All right. Okay.
So that's why I did never actually finish reading the series.
All right. Okay. Well, we definitely I think we've done Harry Potter to death. Okay, Son, it's your turn. What you had a fantasy book series?
Fantasy book series. On a bit of a broader scale, The Forgotten Realms. Like.
Oh, that's a D&D related thing, isn't it? They had books?
Oh yeah. They've got multiple.
Oh, really?
Their whole worlds have several different series.
Let's turn over you. Let's talk about it here.
I read a lot of those in high school. Actually, that's really what got me into reading fantasy.
Okay.
Is that my brother had borrowed one from a friend, and I borrowed it when he had set it down somewhere.
You borrowed it. You took that book. You took it.
I gave it back.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, now it's really forgotten, isn't it? Forgotten Realms.
Yes. So yes, I read.
Okay. So tell me more about these books. They take place.
So they're set in the Dungeons and Dragons worlds.
Yep.
And one of the things is kind of like the Forgotten Realms. That's the overall, world name. They had a whole bunch of different authors, like a lot of people writing in this world, and some of them are really good books. Some of them are not as good of books, and some of them probably shouldn't have gotten past the editor. But but it was very much one where kind of like you figured out which authors you enjoyed reading, and you looked for more things that they had written.
Okay. I think that's good. Isn't one of them, let's see. There's a certain author, I think his name is R.A.
Salvatore, yes.
Okay, did he write some of these books?
He did.
Okay, now that's an author I've heard of. He actually, I think he did the novelization of one of the Star Wars movies.
He did, yes.
So, and he sounds like he's a good author. And it sounds like he's done a book series that, okay.
Yeah, he's done some book series outside of the Forgotten Realms, the Dungeons and Dragons as well.
Okay, all right, okay.
But I think that's where he got his start, and I don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure. That's where I was introduced to him, at least.
Yeah. Okay, I'm pretty impressed here. Okay, have you ever read any of the Wheel of Time books?
One of them. It wasn't even the first one?
I read the first one, and I think I read that when my first kid was born. I remember having that in the hospital, and I remember thinking like, this is pretty interesting, but it's so darn long. I was amazed that I went through all 900 pages, for crying out loud. So, the fact that he even got that far was like, and I can imagine, like, and I don't know how many books. I actually think the author died. I think somebody had to take over for them, which is I don't know. So, yeah. I think it's been adapted, and I haven't had any desire to watch it.
I've heard mixed things about the adaptation from a friend who has read the whole series.
Wow.
All of them. Yes.
I think, honestly, it's like, to me, that's impressive. It's like, if they're in a room and it's like, so what'd you do? I walked on the moon. It's like, well, I read the entire Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan and whoever took over. And I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. So, okay. Is there any, I'm trying to think of other fantasy series?
Actually, to build off of what you were just talking about with Robert Jordan, the author who finished the series was Brandon Sanderson. Have you read any of his books?
No, I have not.
Okay.
What did he write?
He's got the Mistborn series, which is a very good series.
Okay.
He's actually got quite a few books out.
Okay.
He's a very prolific author, still writing. I've met him a couple times too.
Oh, okay.
But he's also a very enjoyable author.
Okay. All right.
The Mistborn series is a fun one.
Mistborn. All right.
He tends to have very unique magic systems and very unique worlds on which he's writing.
Okay, now that sounds like something that some readers would just love and some readers would just hate. Because honestly, there are times where I'm reading this. Okay. Yeah, we should probably talk about this. But you know how you're reading like a fantasy book and there's freaking maps? And then there's also like some of those books where you got to keep your finger in the back of the book because they keep saying a term and you have to look the freaking thing up and then to find out what it means. I think the Wheel of Time series was like that. It had a glossary in the back, and I kind of wish they would tell you that. But if you're a good writer, you don't need a glossary. You should be able to have your characters say it in such a way so it's like, so they don't have to say, there's this, and then they use a term and like, and then they have to define it.
You're right.
As they're saying it, just so you, the audience, knows like that. There's clever ways of doing that. You show, don't tell.
Yeah.
But but I mean,
well, to do a reference again to the Mistborn series, in the first book, we kind of get like at the very beginning like a little glimpses of the magic system, but then we have a main character who is new to this whole thing, so we are learning with that character, which works really well as a writing tool. How do you introduce this to the reader? Well, without let's stop the story and explain how this works.
No, yeah, I know. I mean, that's why
we're explaining it, if we're learning it with one of the other characters.
Yeah, that's why Harry Potter was so. I mean, because they could say like, this is what happened here. There's a guy called Voldemort.
Yeah.
By the way, wizards exist.
By the way, you're a wizard.
Yeah, by the way, you're that, and so you can do stuff like that. I'm trying to think of other fantasy works. Now, there was a series that I used to read. I can't remember the author's name. It was called like. I think the author's name is Robert Lynn Asprin. He wrote Myth Conceptions.
Yes, Myth.
That kind of died. I don't know whatever happened to that series. It was very popular back. Ooh.
I think that's what happened to it.
Honestly, I mean, I'm trying to think. If I read these 30 years ago, then chances are this guy's probably dude because time. But it was one of those series that I'm surprised has not been picked up for adaptation because I feel like it is so rife. Because it was very comic in how it said. Did you ever read any of these? Okay, so I know. I always thought that I read like maybe the first 3 books, and I don't know. I'm sure at some point in time it got bad because every series gets bad after a while.
Well, especially when a lot of the humor in your series is dependent on wordplay, and actually that's why I'm not sure how well it would adapt because so much of the humor of that, Another Fine Myth is it's wordplay. It's humor
Yeah, the
in that.
titles. Yeah, I think he actually kind of figured out, and he couldn't figure out how to make myth into a title or something like that. Isn't there like a little myth marker or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. There was a, but the world it took place in, I like the idea that there were like different dimensions and stuff like that. It was just a very odd setup for a fantasy type book. That reminds me, there was a, okay, oh man, I just reminded of other, oh yes, the Xanth series by Piers Anthony. Did you ever read it?
I did read Xanth.
Okay. That was also kind of, I love the first book, and I feel like that should be adapted. I really like the idea of this, this idea that the main character, everybody here has a magic ability and he doesn't. And I thought like you could easily make that, and in fact, I think they have made stories very similar to that. And I thought that's a great idea. Just put ordinary guy in this. The fantasy setting, it was really very D&D structured. Like he would go to a certain place, do something, and then he would leave that spot and then never really reference it. Oftentimes, and I kind of thought, okay, this is very obviously he played a lot of D&D or something, because it's like, why bother going here unless you were going to mention it?
Right.
Then as later books came out, they would start going back to stuff like that, and it had a very mature spirit too. I kind of felt like it was definitely targeted for adults. But I read it when I was a kid, and I think they put them in our library now. I don't think anybody ever really read these things because they were addressing very mature subject matter. So.
Now, one of the things, it's been a long time since I've read them, but I recently saw somebody else kind of talking about them, and one of their critiques of the Xanth series was that there were some books that honestly got very sexist.
I'll bet they did. Then again, they had to have been written in like the 80s, 70s, right? So.
Oh, he was definitely still writing them in the 80s and 90s, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we haven't mentioned the Wizard of Earthsea series. Did you read that?
Yeah, I've read those.
Okay. I think I read the first two books. I can't remember if I read the last one. I think the Tomb of Atuin was the one that I was really interested in, because honestly, I really thought that had a really cool setup.
It did,
as far as the whole labyrinth and then the lady in there. And, that also
and the question about
magic.
whether our whether our point of view character is actually the good guy or not in that one.
Yeah, I don't really remember that one honestly, but I kind of felt that it's hard that I remember the first one I found rather boring, and so I really couldn't tell you much more about that. And I'm looking at all these things, and I'm seeing a lot of these.
We also haven't talked about Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, we've not talked about Terry Pratchett, have we? What is he? He's the Terry Pratchett.
Discworld.
Oh, never read those. So, see the guy?
I've read a few of them.
See the guy that did Good Omens? Is that the?
Yeah.
Okay. He's,
With Neil Gaiman, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that I'm familiar with. I saw that. Hey, we haven't talked about Aragon yet, have we?
We have not.
Did you read those?
I've read Aragon.
I read the first one, but I was bored with it. I kind of felt that I wasn't really that interested in this world.
I think with absolutely no criticism to the fact that the author was at the time definitely a teenager, it reads like that, and it's like I can see a lot of his influences, especially in the first book. And it's like I can tell that this is somebody who was a big fan of Star Wars, a big fan of Pern. There was at least one other that I remember pinging me.
Pern. We've not discussed that either.
Technically science fiction.
Yeah, you're right. It takes place on another planet and stuff. Yeah. We're going to skip Pern. Are there any Pern fans out there?
But it is a good
yeah.
a good discussion of the fact that the line between fantasy and science fiction can be a lot thinner than we think it is.
Here be dragons. Yeah, there was like a bunch of dragons in that, but I don't know. It's been a while since I think my sister read those. I think I got those as like a gift, and she didn't really like those, and she kept telling me about them, and it's like and I kept saying like that does sound ridiculous. But yeah, so all right. Well, I think it's good. Okay, I want to talk the last few minutes. Let's talk Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Did you read these books?
First 2.5.
I read the first, and then I watched the first season, which was pretty accurate to the first book.
I've watched the first episode of the first season.
And at some point in time, I think when I was reading the second book, I realized that I didn't care about any dang thing in this frickin' world. And plus, the characters would go off on things that I'm going like, okay, I get it, Mr. R.R. Martin, you did your world building. Stop showing off. And then it just kind of got like, and just like, I was going like, I think the character that I think got me the most was Daenerys, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Because I could not figure out her backstory. I couldn't figure out how did she get from there to there. And I kept questioning, because I had friends of mine who were reading this book, and they knew more about this fictional world of Westeros than they did about actual Western civilization. And I'm kind of going like, it doesn't help. And so I just kind of went with this thing, and I just could not get into this book series. I just could not. And it feels like something that I could, but here's the thing. I purposely shoehorned myself to try and get into this. This feels like something I would love and talk about and write about and like maybe write books similar to it. But it's just like, nah, it's just dull as...
I think the thing with the Song of Fire and Ice that really dragged it down for me was spending, like, there were characters I definitely enjoyed, that I liked. And there were characters that I did not want to spend any time in their head, so why are we there for 10 chapters?
Yeah. So, yeah, Tyrion Lannister, yeah, I agree. He's pretty friggin'
There's a character in the second book that I just, like, I hate this person, and we're stuck in this person's head repeatedly. And I don't want to be here.
No.
Because your head is a horrible place to be.
Maybe that's when I quit. Maybe that's when I did, because I just kind of went like, okay, that's enough. I want to watch the second season of this, because I for some reason I had the first 2 seasons on DVD, and I'm told that. And here's the thing. I think here's the thing that. I mean, come on. I mean, this man, George R.R. Martin, who I think I've actually read some of his other works. I was more familiar with him from there, and now he's only known for this.
Right.
But he wrote a story called Sand Kings, which is one of the greatest science fiction stories ever written. He wrote a series called Wild Cards, which is about superheroes that I really loved in high school. But and everybody's trying to adapt like his former works because they think it's like sort of the Philip K. Dick effect. You know, once like Blade Runner was awesome, now like pretty much everything he's done has been adapted into something. But here's the thing. He didn't have all these books done by the time he got the show greenlit.
Nope, he still doesn't have them done.
And here's the thing. As an author, I think I would never let that happen. And I just want to go, shame on you. Shame on you, George R.R. Martin. Shame on you. Because that's what everyone said. Could you hurry up with these books? We really want to see how this dang show ends. Could you do it? And it's like, and he's all like, I'm producing the show. I'm so busy with that. How can you tell me to write and stuff? Because you had this book, so so it ended up like the producers of the show had to just come up with an ending for this crap. And then no one liked the ending. And I'm actually wondering like if this was on purpose. Like, it's like, you know what? Write your own damn ending, and it'll suck so bad that when I write my books, they'll sell for millions. Billions! Yeah, I'm just gonna just sit here and just rest on my laurels here. And it's like, I think I got an idea maybe, and something like that. But that sounds good. So yeah, there's gonna be this DVDs that you can buy of the show, and then there's gonna be the actual books that George R.R. Martin finishes. Whenever the hell he gets around to it.
Assuming he does before he passes away.
Dude, he's pretty old and he's pretty weighty. I feel like time is not on his side, okay? So we all know this. We all know it. Yeah. So, but okay. We're probably going to need to bring this to a close here, Sanan. But man, I've had a really good time talking about these fantasy books. We never got into movies.
We didn't.
You want to do that here in a bit?
Do you have a favorite fantasy movie?
Ooh. Well, let's not get into that. We'll get into that a little later.